This is Hayes Q Jones, your DVD and Blu-ray baller on a budget, and this is HQ Videos for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a current subscriber, what's up? You're greatly appreciated. Come on in, make yourself at home. You know the routine. This week for my collection video, I wanted to focus on a subgenre of horror. These would be vampire movies. I love supernatural possession movies, sci-fi, outer space horror though, but the vampire subgenre is very unique. And I think Anne Rice, with her novels, specifically the Vampire Chronicles, Interview with the Vampire, Queen of the Damned, I think she kind of brought that into the modern era, modernizing vampires, making them a little bit more stylish, a lot more sexy, and just kind of giving it an overall erotic feel to it. Plus, it's the thought of being immortal and living forever and having all these superpowers, however, having the shortcoming or the shortfall of not seeing the daylight. I can see how that might be appealing to some people. So, these are my top 10 favorite horror movies that I own. Little note here, I haven't seen the new Nosferatu. It just doesn't look that interesting to me, but eventually I'll see it. I love the movie Sinners, but I don't have that in my collection yet. So that's my little caveat to my collection in my top 10. Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, have a drink of a smoke, and I'll catch you on the other end of this video. Back at the Black Cave. Back at the Black Cave. We are back at the motherfucking Black Cave. I'm going to kick it off with my number 10 pick for favorite vampire pictures. The first one is the 1985 comedy horror thriller Fright Night. It's directed and written by Tom Holland, produced by Jerry A. Berowitz. This stars Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Amanda Bierce, Roddy McDowall, Stephen Jeffries. The plot behind this, Charlie Brewster, a high school student, accidentally discovers the true and creepy nature of Jerry Dandridge, his dashing and enigmatic neighbor, but no one seems willing to believe him. And this is just classic 80s horror. It has that tongue-in-cheek humor to it. For the time, pretty decent effects with the transformation to the vampire. And been a Roddy McDowall fan since Planet of the Apes, maybe. Yeah, around Planet of the Apes. So love Roddy McDowall, love the cast, and just a really fun movie. And this is a Twilight Time release. Number 10 pick, Fright Night. The number 9 pick, another 80s horror flick, the 1987 action comedy horror thriller, The Lost Boys. This was directed by Joel Schumacher, produced by Harvey Bernard, written by Jan Fisher. This stars Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Diane Wiest, Bernard Hughes, Edward Herman, Kiefer Sutherland, Jamie Gertz, Corey Feldman, Jameson Newlander, Brooke McCarter, Billy Wirth. Let's see, and was the other Corey in here? Were both Corys in here? Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, yes. The plot behind this, when an unsuspecting town newcomer is drawn to local blood fiends, the Frog Brothers and other unlikely heroes gear up to rescue him. And again, this is fun 80s vampire horror with little kind of MTV touch. MTV was just kind of up and rolling around this time, I believe, mid 80s though. So it has kind of that music video feel with the 80s kind of fashion, music design, and again, great cast. The Corey brothers, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric. So you had a solid cast. So just a great 80s horror movie. So my number 9 pick, and of course, it spawned 2 other movies, so it was actually a trilogy. So my number 9 pick, 1987, The Lost Boys. I'll get this in the folder later, in the sleeve later. My number 8 pick is the 1972 action horror thriller, Blackula. This is directed by William Crane, produced by Samuel Z. Arkoff, written by Joan Torres. This stars William Marshall, Vanetta McGee, Denise Nichols, Damulus Rasulala, Gordon Pinsent, Charles Macaulay, Emily Yancey, and Lance Taylor Sr. The plot behind this, an 18th century African prince is turned into a vampire while visiting Transylvania. 2 centuries later, he rises from the coffin, attacking various residents of Los Angeles, and meets Tina, a woman who he believes is a reincarnation of his deceased wife. And as I mentioned, this is in the 70s, and this is a Shout Factory. Oh yeah, this is Warner Brothers, Lost Boys. But Shout Factory release spawned a sequel. I love this movie. Again, black horror has always kind of taken a backseat, and this is kind of an introduction to black horror using the vampire genre, also during the black exploitation period though. So you have all that working together, plus you have the lead actor, fabulous Broadway actor. He was actually a Shakespearean trained or a thespian trained actor, and because there really weren't a whole lot of roles for black thespian actors in the 70s and 60s, though, he was kind of regulated to doing B movies or black exploitation movies, though. But it did fantastic in theaters, did so well that this spawned a sequel with my other love outside of my wife, Pam Grier, Scream Blackula Scream. Not as good as the first, though, but still solid horror movie, great cult classic, Blackula. My number 7 pick is the 1979 comedy horror romance. I have a lot of comedy horror in here though, but I like what I like. Love at First, 1979's Love at First Bite. This was directed by Stan Derkati, produced by Samuel Z. Arkoff, written by Robert Kaufman. This stars George Hamilton, Susan St. James, Richard Benjamin, Dick Shawn, Art Johnson, Sherman Hemsley, Isabel Sanford. Those names sound familiar. Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford from the Jeffersons. Barry Gordon, Ronnie Shell, Bob Basso. The plot behind this: Dracula and Renfield relocate to 70s era New York in search of Cindy Soderheim, the reincarnation of Dracula's one true love, Mina Harker. Trouble adjusting in a wild understatement for the Count as he battles Cindy's psychiatrist, Jeffrey Rosenberg, a descendant of Van Helsing, who may almost certainly possibly may be in love with Cindy too. And this is just a silly 70s horror comedy. Probably more comedy than horror. Oh, let me get the movie. Hold on, I forgot the movie. Here's the movie. It also has the double track Once Bitten, but I prefer Love at First Bite. And probably because I like George Hamilton. He was just like the cool guy back in the 70s. I like Susan St. James. If I remember correctly, she was in a television show, McMillan and Wife, with Rock Hudson, detective show in the 70s I used to like to watch. So it had Sherman Hemsley in there. So it was just a funny, silly horror movie, and it worked. It was sexy. You had again Susan St. James. It was funny, and it was just a really entertaining watch. So if you like that type of entertaining, silly 70s horror, definitely check out my number 10987 pick, Love at First Bite. My number 6 pick is the 1992 fantasy horror romance, Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, produced by Michael Apted, written by the famous Bram Stoker. This stars Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, Richard E. Grant, Carl Ells, Billy Campbell, Sadie Frost, Tom Waits, Monica Bellucci from, I believe she was in, The Matrix. Fiona Kendricks, Jay Robinson. The plot behind this: in 19th century England, Count Dracula travels to London and meets with Mina Harker, a young woman who appears as a reincarnation of his lost love. And if you're familiar with the channel, you know that as a kid I used to read a lot, read most of the classics. I never read Mary Shelley. I might have read Mary Shelley, but I never read any Bram Stoker. And what I love about this is truly a horror plus a romance. This paints Dracula more as a love-torn individual who he felt slighted by God. The whole premise is, and I hope I'm not giving too much away, but it's from the book, Dracul, I believe that was his name, went to fight this holy war in the name of God, and when he came back, his love was dead, and he kind of cursed God. It was just like, I did this for you, and this is what I get in return. So that's the framing of the movie, though. So it's less of Dracula being this demonic creature, but more kind of like this really love-torn person. So it's a very complex movie. That's what I like about Bram Stoker's version of Dracula. Plus, it has a killer cast: Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves, Anthony Hopkins. So, and it looks visually stunning. This is one of the movies I might upgrade to 4K because it was just that great of a movie. Sony release: Bram Stoker's Dracula. My number 5 pick is a 2008 drama foreign horror romance, Let Me In. And I'll explain why I have 2 movies here in a second, though. But this is directed by Thomas Alfredson, produced by Frida Asp, written by John Ajvid Lindqvist. This stars, and these are Swedish names, so I'm going to murder them, though. But it's like Carrie Hedebrandt, Lena Linderson, Per Ragnar, Hendrik Dahl, and Karen Bergquist. The plot behind this: when Oscar, a sensitive, bullied 12-year-old boy, meets his new neighbor, the mysterious and moody Eli, they strike up a friendship. Initially reserved with each other, Oscar and Ellie, slowly form a close bond, but it soon becomes apparent that she is no ordinary young girl. And this is a remake of this one. So this was originally done in Sweden, but it's dubbed in English. So, and very much like Bram Stoker's Dracula, is kind of a romance. And if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give too much away, though, but it's essentially a young boy falling in love with a young vampire and what transpires after that, though. This is a Anchor Bay release, and this is it Welgo USA? No, a Magnet release. So both great movies. I probably prefer this a little bit more because it was in English, and I do like Chloe Grace Moretz. So, but both of them great movies, great stories, very original, very well done, very well shot. So My number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 pick, Let the Right One In or Let Me In. There we go. My number 4 pick is the 2007 horror thriller, 30 Days of Night. This was directed by David Slade, produced by Ted Adams, written by Stephen Niles. This stars Josh Hartnett, Melissa George, Danny Huston, Ben Foster, Mark Boone Jr., Mark Rendell, Amber Sainsbury, Manu Bennett, Megan Franich. The plot behind this is a story of an isolated Alaskan town that's plunged into darkness for a month each year when the sun sinks below the horizon. As the last days of light fade, the town is attacked by a bloodthirsty gang of vampires bent on an uninterrupted orgy of destruction. Only the small town's husband and wife sheriff team stand between the survivors and certain destruction. And I like this because this was, to me, an original idea, having vampires in Alaska where they have months of darkness. Great concept. The vampires, bloodthirsty, a lot of carnage. Very creepy. A lot of kind of jump scenes to it, though. Great atmosphere. Just overall, a nice looking movie. Great atmosphere and original idea. It's a Sony release, and also like the cast. I like Josh Hartnett and Melissa George. Not really familiar with her, but I liked her in this role, though. So my number 1, 2, 3, 4 pick, 30 Days of Night. Number 3 pick is the 1987 horror romance Western. Western's kind of stretching it, though, but Near Dark. This is directed by Catherine Bigelow, produced by Mark Allen, written by Eric Red. This stars Adrian Pasdar, Jenny Wright, Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, may rest in peace, Jeanette Goldstein, Tim Thomerson, Joshua John Miller, Marsha Leeds, Kenny Call, Ed Colbert, Troy Evans, and Bill Cross. The plot behind this: a farm boy reluctantly becomes a member of the undead when a girl he meets turns out to be part of a brand of vampires who roam the highways in stolen cars. And this is a Lionsgate release. And I like this. It has a Lost Boys feel to it. Just kind of well, more gritty, more grimy, a little more violent with some of the kill scenes, though. But just, and the storyline is not necessarily that original, though, but how the vampires are portrayed is kind of like a road warrior type of thing going on. As you can see how they're dressed here, just kind of like a biker gang turned into vampires. So that whole feel with Bill Paxton, it just really works. So my number 3 pick for favorite vampire pictures, Near Dark. My number 2 pick is the 2003 action fantasy thriller Underworld. This was directed by Len Wiseman, produced by Robert Bernacchi, written by Kevin Graveau. This stars Kate Beckinsale, Scott Speedman, Michael Sheen, Shane Broley, Bill Nighy, Erwin Leder, Sophia Myles, Robbie G, Wentworth Miller, Kevin Graveau, Zita Gorog, Dennis J. Kozella. The plot behind this: vampires and werewolves have waged a nocturnal war against each other for centuries. But all bets are off when a female vampire warrior named Selene, who's famous for her strength and werewolf hunting prowess, becomes smitten with a peace-loving male werewolf, Michael, who wants to end the war. And I love how this picture looked. It almost feels a little Matrix-like with some of the special effects. You have gunplay, you have fight scenes, and you have vampires and werewolves. Plus, you have Kate Beckinsale in really tight black clothing, which really suits her very well. I give credit due. She's very sexy in this movie, and all the movies, though. But it's just a fun action-filled movie. Quick story, being a new father, trying to get my child acclimated into movies, sat down watching Underworld with my son. And my wife walks in like, "What are you doing?" Like, watching Underworld. I think he might have been like 3 or 4 at the time. Didn't realize, didn't even click. It's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be watching this though, but you live and you learn though. But my number 2 pick for favorite vampire movies, Underworld. My number 1 pick, for anyone who's familiar with the channel shouldn't be surprised, it is the 1998 action horror science fiction film, Blade. This was directed by Stephen Norrington, produced by Avi Arad, written by Richard Festiva. This stars Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff, the late Chris Christopherson, Mbushi Wright, Danal Logue, Udo Kier, Arlie Jover, Tracy Lords, Kevin Patrick Walls, and Tim Guinea. The plot behind this is Daywalker, known as Blade, a half-vampire, half-mortal man, becomes the protector of humanity against an underground army of vampires. From the opening scene, this is just a badass movie. This is a New Line Cinema. But I was actually watching a short from the comedian Godfrey. He was talking about when he actually had the opportunity to meet Stan Lee before Stan Lee passed. And he was in his office and he was just looking at the posters, and he pointed out Blade and Wesley Snipes, saying basically Blade, this movie, helped save Marvel. Marvel was really kind of in a stagnant place. Then Blade came along and he rejuvenated, in my opinion, the whole Marvel look, the whole Marvel universe. Before it was more like Batman and Robin and Superman with the tights. Now you're seeing people with body armor, automatic machine weapons, even how they enter the room. When they enter the room, you hear the boom, the bass of their steps. It just gives you that overall package of what a really superhero should look like in the movies in the 21st century. And this is just amazing movie. I have the other 2. I want to get 4K, but I'm hoping that they're going to release all 3 in the 4K so I can get them as one set though. But my number 1 pick for favorite vampire movies of all time, the man, the myth, the legend, Wesley Snipes, Blade. And these are my favorite vampire pictures. If you made it this far in the video, smash a like, give me the big thumbs up. If you have your own favorite vampire movie that is not in this list, please leave it in the comments. Other than that, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Everyone, please be safe. Deuces.